Today on Ask a DM, we're going to take a look at how to create a D&D one-shot adventure. So let's do this. Hey, Lucart here. Let's jump right into our question for this week. Now, I think I got this question off from Facebook or YouTube or something. I forget now. But the question was asked by a dude, I think he was a dude, named Arum Perry. And Arum Perry asks, any chance of a video on writing one-shots tailored to a specific session length? I'm running a 2-hour adventure for beginners this autumn, and I'd like to make sure I don't run over. Okay, now check this out. This video is going to have 2 parts to it. In the first part, I am going to explain my basic techniques for writing and running a one-shot, usually at gaming conventions where there's a specific time limit, usually 4 hours. And in the second part of this video, I'm actually going to hop over to my computer and I'm going to walk you through a one-shot that I designed recently I designed it for the gaming convention whose shirt I'm currently wearing. Okay, so the trick for writing one-shot adventures with a specific time length. There are actually 2 tricks that I want to mention, two important things to make sure you're doing. The first one, the most important one possibly in my opinion, is to get the players and the player characters past all of the time-wasting logistical stuff that a lot of times eats up a lot of table time, because that's the thing, right? When you have, let's just say it's a 4-hour time limit. If you have that time limit, then you do not want to spend an hour in town buying up supplies. When you have a time limit, especially in a convention, you need to get on with the show. You need to get to the important bits, the interesting bits of your adventure. So we mentioned shopping for supplies, but even something like figuring out what they're supposed to do, figuring out what this adventure is even about, asking people, even a NPC quest giver giving like a monologue or explaining to them what the problem is and all that kind of stuff, like that takes time to do that, right? And so you want to try to, I mean, that might be part of your adventure, that might be something you want to focus and feature, and that's totally fine. But if it's not going to be a super interesting thing, and it's just kind of like one of those logistical things where we gotta let them know what they're doing, and you're not planning on making it some sort of like engaging, intriguing part of the adventure, then you kind of want to get past that stuff as quickly as you can so that you can get to the parts of the adventure that are fun, that are engaging, and that you think your players will enjoy the most. Because the thing is that if we spend a lot of time shopping for supplies or dinking around, then all of that time we spend doing that is time that we aren't spending actually playing the fun parts of the adventure, and that's not, well, fun. Alright, the second really important thing that you as the DM need to be doing during a one-shot is you need to manage the player's time for them. I mean, you need to take a look at the clock, you need to keep an eye on the clock and know how much time you have left, and you need to actively guide the players and their characters through the adventure from start to end. Alright, we'll walk through how I kind of handle time management in just a little bit, but first I want to kind of walk through the steps of how I design a one-shot for conventions, which is when I usually run one-shots. I mean, I do all of the basic things that you would probably do for any adventure. I create a basic storyline of, a time, a place, a location. I populate that storyline with encounters that might take place along the way, and I also populate the adventure with NPCs that the heroes might run into. And I don't think there's anything extraordinary about that. I mean, that's the standard stuff you would do when you're designing any adventure. But one of the things I do for one-shots with a time limit is I tell the players right out of the gate what the adventure is about, what their mission is, what their goal is, and what the parameters for success are. And I usually do this via a handout, because here's the thing, when your players arrive to a one-shot, especially at a convention, you usually don't have them all there at once, so that you can just explain to them what's going on. What usually happens is they start to trickle in, 2 arrive, 1 arrives, then another one arrives, and so what I do is I actually have a handout that I give to the players, and I will show you, later in the video, I will pull it up on the computer screen and I will show you that handout that I give to them for my Finding Ashton Sanguine event that I ran just a little bit ago for Marmalade Dog, and I'll show that to you. But this handout, it explains to them certain things about the adventure, things that they would know, and what their objectives are. And what this does is, as they come to the table then, as they start to trickle in, they can get their character set up, they can read over their character sheets and find out what character they're playing, and they can also read about the adventure, and they can get an idea of what their goal is for the adventure. And so I get all of that logistical prep work out of the way before the game slot even begins. And so what that does is that allows me to have the majority of that 4 hours to run the game without having to do all that kind of prep work because it's already been taken care of. Now, I get that that might seem a little video gamey or something like that, but when you're running on a time limit, that saves you maybe a half an hour or more of time of this upfront prep work. And if you can save that time and get to the more important and fun parts of the adventure, then you're really doing your players a service by doing that, and you're making the game better because of it. By the way, I've been a Dungeon Master since high school, and I publish videos here every week, and the main goal of these videos is to help Dungeon Masters run awesome games. So if you want to level up your game, that's another video gamey term, I guess, then consider subscribing to this channel, and my goal here is to get valuable content in front of you guys that's going to help you. Okay, so you've done all the upfront prep work of designing your adventure and stuff, and you have your NPCs, you have your encounters, you have the storyline, you have given the players a handout so they know what they're supposed to do. The next thing you're going to do, and this is the step 2 thing, which is managing the time. As the players are going through your adventure, you are keeping an eye on the clock, and you have to have an end goal in mind. You have to know where ultimately the adventure is going to end, because that's the thing. When you are running a one-shot, especially at a convention, you really want to give your players a satisfying ending. There's nothing more disappointing, like in my opinion, than getting halfway through the adventure and not actually finishing it, because that kind of sucks. So you want to get your players to the end of the adventure to give them that satisfaction of having actually beaten the bad guy or at least died trying. So keep an eye on the clock, know where you're going, and then what you're going to do is, as the adventure is proceeding and as the players are doing things, you are handpicking the encounters that you're going to throw at them, whether it's a combat or not. You are handpicking the NPCs that go at them, and what you're doing as a dungeon master is you are guiding them as much as possible to the end of the adventure. Now, I know some of you are going to think this sounds a little railroady. It's actually not railroady. It's actually very sandboxy the way I run it, because I have a bunch of encounters designed, I have a bunch of NPCs designed, and the players can basically take any path they want through the adventure, and as they're going through it, I am just picking out encounters and NPCs. So for instance, if they're going a way that's not going to get them to the final goal, I might have an NPC that comes along that they talk to that somehow gives them a hint or some advice, or just straight up tells them, hey, you're searching for this Ashton Sanguine guy, and I think I saw him heading west. And they might go west. So it's the way I run it, it's actually very, very sandboxy. And but I keep that end goal in mind, and I'm trying to guide my players to that end goal. I do want to mention, though, that this is not a technique that I use for my normal games, right? For my normal games, I create an adventure, and I tell my players that you can go through this adventure and overcome it and defeat the bad guys, or you can go through this dungeon any way you want, and I leave it totally open to them, and I'm not trying to guide them to some sort of ending or anything. It's an open world, here's the adventure, do what you will. However, for a one-shot with a time limit, especially for a convention, I take a totally different approach to this, right? I want them to have an ending because I only have 4 hours, right? So I need to get them to that ending. I really want them to have that satisfying ending. And so as a DM, I'm going to try to guide them to it. Now, it's a very subtle guiding, don't get me wrong. It's not overtly telling them you must go here, you must do this. It's very, very subtle. And I hand the encounters and the NPCs, and I don't know, I'm probably not describing this super well, and I apologize for that. It'd be great if I had some video of me running a one-shot that people would watch 4 hours of it, and then I could demonstrate it a lot better, but that's the general idea. Again, I am not advocating this for normal Dungeons and Dragons groups, because yeah, I agree, that is very, very, very railroady feeling to it. I would not do that with a normal group. Remember, with a normal D&D group, we're gonna play every week or every other week, and so you have time to just let them go about it. You have time to let them take a circumventing route, or whatever that word is, and get there eventually. But for a one-shot with a time limit, you don't have the time, and so it's important to run that game differently than you would run a normal D&D game. I mean, unless you're okay with them not finishing it, and you might be okay with that, but I guarantee you, your players want a satisfying ending to their one-shot. And if you can get them to that, and make it feel like it was natural, that you had just planned it out that way, that you had managed the time and your adventure was that well written, I mean, you're going to come across as an awesome dungeon master, and the players at that convention are going to love you, and you might get, I got an email once from a player that I ran a game for at a convention center asking if I did any games online because he loved my one-shot so much, and I'm not trying to like, boost my ego or some crap like that, but I'm just saying that if you run an awesome game, people are going to love it, and they're going to want to play with you, right? And so, yeah. Alright, what I'm going to do in the rest of this video is I'm going to pull up a one-shot that I ran recently at a gaming convention at Marmalade Dog 23, and I'm going to walk you through it. Alright, I just want to remind you guys that I'm still running that giveaway from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So if you want to get in on that giveaway and get a copy for yourself, you can enter by clicking that link down in the description or in the pinned comment. So this adventure is called Finding Ashton Sanguine, and I ran this over at the Marmalade Dog 23 convention just a few months ago. And this was a one-shot. I had a 4-hour time limit on this bad boy. And so I'm going to walk you through, like I said, some of the different things I did here to run this one-shot and to make it go down really successfully, I think, for all of the groups that played it. Alright, so what we're looking at here is the player handout that I mentioned. And as you can see, I'm going to scroll real quick for you. It's not very long. It's like about a half a page or so printed out. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it for you. This adventure handout explains the circumstances leading up to the current adventure and provides information all characters would know. And then I go on to explain, gives them some background, tell them that they're a member of the Sword Coast Guard Adventuring Company. They were contracted by Tazarkan the Younger to track down a dangerous criminal called Ashton Sanguine. I give some information about Ashton Sanguine. I tell them what he looks like. He's blue-skinned. He's a half-elven bard. I tell them why they're trying to track him down, what he did. And I also mentioned that there is another adventuring company called the Hand of Light who is also trying to find Ashton Sanguine. So a little bit of backstory there. So that, and remember, this is something that as the players are arriving to the convention center table where I'm running the game, I'm giving them this stuff so they can start reading this before the game actually starts. And so this saves lots of time. The next thing that I'm going to go through here is adventure start. So basically what I do is I set the backdrop for them. I tell them where they are in this world, that they're a little bit north of Waterdeep. They're in a village called Rassalantar, and that's where Ashton Sanguine was last seen. And I mentioned here a handful of buildings that are in that town. And here's the reason. They have to find Ashton Sanguine. They have to get clues to where he is. And so the most natural thing to do is to start asking around at different places in town. So instead of waiting till the game starts for the players to be like, okay, so like what's in this town, I headed that off right here by just giving a simple list of different places in town. Sleeping Dragon Inn, the Red Iron, a blacksmith, a Waterdeep soldier outpost, Petron's General Store, and the estate of Chenry Vendrick, the noble ruler of the village. Now, obviously, as this is going about, as we actually play the game, some of the players were asking me about different places, and I was making things up on the fly. Yes, that's one thing you got to do, but I also gave them some options to start with, and this helped them to kind of maybe get some ideas of where they wanted to start, and that saved some time too. Alright, and then the next thing, the last thing on this little handout that I put here were the adventure objectives. And you can see here that their first objective is to track down Ashton Sanguine, and then number 2, apprehend Ashton Sanguine, preferably alive, and 3, don't let the Hand of Light find Ashton Sanguine before you do. Now, here's the thing, I didn't have them even interact with the quest giver at all. I plopped them down smack dab into the middle of this village, Rassalantar, and then asked them, what do you want to do? And they immediately, once the game started, they immediately started investigating, going from these different places, the Sleeping Dragon Inn, and asking around, trying to find Ashton Sanguine, and we cut out probably a half hour of gameplay of just like, getting the quest and getting up and rolling. Oh, one other thing before I forget, I want to mention, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put copies of all of this one-shot material down in the description below, so you guys can go over. I'll probably have it in my, what do you want to call it? The Google Drive or something like that. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to put that in Google Drive so that you guys can download it and you guys can just read it and be able to get your hands on it and all that good stuff. I mean, you're welcome to use it if you want. You're welcome to modify it and all that good stuff too. But I will make this available for you guys because I think it would be very useful for you to use this perhaps as a reference material or something. I don't know, whatever. I'm sure somebody will find it useful somewhere, so I will make that available for you. All right, so the next thing that I want to walk through here is I made some another document for myself that simply had information about Rasalantar itself. And I just want to walk through this. Now, I created all of this information about Rasalantar so that no matter where they decided to go in this little town, I would be prepared for it, and I would have some basic information, some bullet points and whatnot, to be able to run whatever they happen to do in this town. And so at the very beginning of the document, I just have some like background on it. It's a small farming community, blah, blah, blah. It's got a swamp nearby. There are some woods. I got names here. Obviously got names because players are going to ask the names of things. I have what the government is. It's governed by the Vendrick family. And there were some Waterdeep soldiers stationed in town. I have some history about when Rasalantar was formed. Again, just information that I may not use at all, but it prepares me no matter which direction the players decide to go. I have information on the Vendrick family, some origins, how many household guards they have. You can see here I have the names of all their family members. Okay, just simple bullet points. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to create this information, but it is amazingly useful. And I'm not sure any of the players, when I actually ran this at Marmalade Dog, ever went to the Vendrick family. So I didn't really use it, but I was prepared to use it if I needed to. Information about Chenry Vendrick. I have information. I have what he looks like. I can describe him. I have his personality traits, right? He can't keep a secret. He always keeps score. He occasionally laughs at inappropriate times. I mean, I have all this information jotted down, quick little bullet points, right? And here's the key. Writing this in bullet points like I did here is going to help you quickly reference this during gameplay. It is very difficult to pull out things from a block of text, right? So this is all, and I have heading levels. This is all very, very intentional for me to be able to run this efficiently at the table and to reference it and find information and not have to have everything memorized. Very, very helpful stuff. Information about the Waterdeep soldier barracks, the building description, an overview, how many guards there are, a rotation of guards, soldier descriptions, what they look like. They're wearing silver scale mail with black tabards and gold trim, the types of weapons they carry, the names. Okay, I use some bolding here because I'm able to pick out their names a little bit easier. What they look like. Now, not all of them. Like, look at these two here. These two guys right here. I didn't describe a whole lot about them. I probably figured that I would use the first two as a preference, and then if I needed a couple other names, I would have them available. The redsmith, or the blacksmith here, okay, the NPC who's in charge of it. Again, I have description. He's black hair, bald on top, scraggly beard. He chews tobacco and spits frequently into the forge. You know, his mannerisms, he uses profanity. He talks like a tough guy. Again, just preparing things. And I pretty much did the same sort of thing for all the different locations in Rasalantar. The Sleeping Dragon Inn, some of the NPCs, who the proprietor is. Thurn, Spider, I don't know how to pronounce that name, right? Again, descriptions and stuff like that. They're, of course, going to run into a barmaid if they go into the Sleeping Dragon Inn. So I have her name there. Celia Kyle. I think I copied that from like Batman or something. That sounds familiar. Whatever. Not everything has to be original, right? A lot of these names, I have a little baby book, a little tiny baby book that I just reference, and I pull names out. I flip to a random page and just grab names. Sometimes I use online generators on the internet to get names. It doesn't have to be original, and you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about names, right? Just throw them out there and get them out there. Like I said, the majority of these names will not ever get used. So don't spend tons of time really thinking everything through. Just create stuff there so that it's useful and that it's available if you need it. Services that the inn offers. Petron's General Store. This is a little general store run by Petron Sugarfoot. He is a halfling male with large ears and exceptionally hairy feet. I think all halflings have exceptionally hairy feet. Anyway, the farmsteads. I mean, I don't know. Are they going to go from farmhouse to farmhouse asking around? Who knows? And so I just got some names here that are handy just in case my players decide to do something like that. Again, just preparation, just simple preparation. And it looks like that is all the information I have for that. Now, when this was actually playing out at the game table for the 3 games I ran at Marmalade Dog, all of my players were actually asking for other places they might go in the city. I think I needed to, on the spot, invent like the caravan grounds and like some caravan master who was in charge of all the different caravans that would come through. And there were things that I did have to wing a little bit and make up on the spot. That is inevitable, right? There is a certain amount of preparation that you can do to get you so far, and then during the game, your players will always throw curveballs at you, and you need to just be prepared to improvise and just wing it a little bit. That is the nature of the game. You can't prepare every last little thing. All right, so the last thing I'm going to look through here with you is the actual adventure itself. So you can see I got pulled up on the screen here, Finding Ash the Sanguine. What I always do in all my adventures is I just list out all of the creatures that are going to be in them, listing the page number on the monster manual or Willow's guide or whatever that it's found on, what the CR rating is, how much XP it is. You know, that information comes in handy from time to time. And then I have some notes and whatnot. So like I mentioned, one of the things I do is I get a storyline set out. And so I have some basic storyline here, bullet pointed out. I'm not going to read every single one of them. You guys can download it and take a look at it yourself if you're interested in that. But I do have a basic storyline going here. And I've detailed some of the locations a little bit. Rasalantar, Gauntlet Hall, and then some of the NPCs. No, you'll notice here for the NPCs that I have a little bit more information about them. Not a whole lot. Like I said, some of these NPCs are not even going to come into play. That the players might not even run into them. So I have some basic information jotted down about them, and my goal here is that if I need to use them, then I will just make things up about them as I need to. But I do have some information here not jotted down about the NPCs. And then just scrolling down a little bit, random encounters. So I always make random encounters for my adventures. I plan them ahead of time. These are very, very simple things. Now, in the case of a one shot, and I was running this very sandboxy, and the players were able to go wherever they wanted to try to track down Ash and Sanguine. And one of my things was I needed to have random encounters in case I needed them, in case they went like way off into like I don't know where, doing whatever. I would just have stuff to throw at them. I mean, that was like a last-ditch effort to make something out of the game, right? Would just be to have some fights, even if they didn't follow the storyline or didn't go anywhere near where resolution would come to. Anyway, that's a different thing. Anyway, random encounters, got that. Good, great, grand. Rasalantar, some information here. Okay, so if they go to the Sleeping Dragon Inn, they would find out this information that I have jotted down here. And I'm trying to, remember one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to guide them to a successful ending, or at least guide them to the end of the adventure. And so here are clues they can pick up that will help them get there. There's mention of Granny Mathilda Titchwillow has a cottage to the west, and she's extremely good at divination. This, of course, would be a way for them to find where Ash and Sanguine is. People are complaining about their children's nasty pranks and general bad behavior. Some of these things are a little bit of red herrings, right? In this case, Granny Titchwillow actually happens to be an Annis hag who is corrupting the children in the town. And so this is a little bit of red herring, but also related to things. It's another little, maybe Easter egg you might want to call it, that players could find in the adventure. And so that little bit there could be picked up. And then I have a note here. Important! The heroes can't pick up any more leads. Force them to seek Granny Mathilda. I didn't actually do that. I ran this a lot more sandboxy and open-ended than I actually probably made this note referencing. So anyway, just in case you're wondering. Alright, so the idea here is they're going to be in town, they're going to get some leads, they're going to they might find out about these white knights and go investigate them. They might find out that, the intention is they find out that Granny Titchwillow is a diviner, and then they go try to seek her out to get assistance for Ash and Sanguine. And so now I just have some more information here that I can use. The White Knight Patrol, so as soon as they head out of Rasalantar, one of the things I wanted them to do is I wanted them to run into a patrol of these White Knights. Now these White Knights are like extremists of Torm who are basically ridding the countryside of witches, and I wanted them to run into a patrol and have a really negative experience with this patrol because I wanted them to really dislike these White Knights because that became important at another part in the adventure. But the whole idea here is that I have, what is the whole idea here? I don't know. I'm like losing my train of thought here. So they're going to run into this little patrol of White Knights. They might run into them, they might not. I think I had all of my groups run into them because I wanted to make this a big issue, or I wanted to make this important for them to dislike the White Knights because that would come up later in the adventure. And so that little thing was there. And notice I have notes here. I have, information about how many there are, the difficulty, and all that good stuff. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I need to start zooming out just a little bit from these because I think I'm going into a little bit too much detail. You guys are welcome to download these and take a look at these on your own, obviously. So this is another encounter that I had, Granny Titchwillow, and one of the things about this is this was not designed to, I mean, the White Knight Patrol was not designed to be a battle. That was designed to not be a battle. It could have turned into one, obviously. This one here was designed to, either the players would go here and get information about finding Ashton Sanguine, or they might fight Granny Titchwillow. In fact, one of my groups went to Granny Titchwillow, and they did end up fighting her, and almost defeating her, and another one of the groups went to Granny Titchwillow, got information about Ashton Sanguine, and then went and found him. And then the third group bypassed Titchwillow entirely and decided not to even go to her. And so that's what I kind of meant about running these as a sandbox. All of these encounters were just kind of optional. So you can see what I got going on here is a lot of read aloud text. I don't always use the read aloud text, but it's there in case I need it. Some bullet pointed information. I have information about what is inside Granny Titchwillow's cottage, and here are some interaction notes with Granny Titchwillow, and I had this little really cool voice that I did for her as well. I mean, one of the things that I was doing constantly during my one-shots over at Marmalade Dog was using all my voices and stuff like that, which I really like doing. And this is like, is he going to use a crazy voice right now? I don't think so. I don't really kind of feel like it. Sorry, maybe someday I'll do it. Anyway, I got some like notes here, some bullet points and crap. Oh, what I want to do is I want to pop over to the map of this as well. So this is a very, very basic map. There is nothing spectacular here, but what you can see is that I just got a very basic grid going on about her cottage, where the stairs are, how many levels, cupboards, and crap like that, because if this turned into a combat, I wanted to have a map ready to go. And like I said, for one of my groups, it did turn into a combat. And I have some encounter notes, some scarecrows that would attack her. The cottage did some special things. The windows and doors animated with teeth and were like biting. Poisonous gas came out of the cauldron. Some more information here about the combatants. Loot in case they fought her. They would want to loot. Players always loot everything, right? So I would need that information. Information about the second floor of the cottage. Oh, this had a really cool trap on it as well. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but there was a really cool trap I designed for it. And then Gauntlet Hall. So one of the places that the players could go was over to Gauntlet Hall, where these like fanatics of Torm were hanging out. And if they decided to go there were a whole lot of different like adventure like lines and paths they could have taken, and it was all just kind of ad-libbed as I went. So here, though, I have some basic information about this place set up, and depending on what the characters did, like, for instance, the characters, I mean, these Knights of Torm were searching for witches, right? And I kind of set it up where Granny Titchwillow is an Annis hag. She kind of is a witch. And so the players could have gone to the Knights of Torm, and the Knights of Torm could have said, the White Knights, we'll just call them, could have said, hey guys, you know, we will help you if you help us. If you give us information about witches in the area, then we might tell you where Ashton Sanguine is, basically, is how I kind of set it up. And so one of the groups, I believe, actually did rat out Granny Titchwillow, and then the White Knights gave them information about how to find Ashton Sanguine, and then they went and found Ashton Sanguine. Another group went over to the White Knights, and they ended up actually, I think they went into the underground tunnels below the White Knights, and I don't even remember what they were doing, but they did a whole bunch of different stuff. But the point is here that there were lots of different routes this could have taken, and I have tons of notes here about how I just had it all set up for them to be able to do that. An audience with Lady Ocean's Storm Banner. Lots of bullet points here. What I want to show you, I'm going to take you over to so I have a map here of Gauntlet Hall, right? I didn't go into too big a detail about these upstairs areas. I was planning on just improvising this if needed, but there's a keep, there are barracks, there's a weapons smithy, there's a gatehouse, and whatnot you can see here. And then now, these right here are the catacombs below Gauntlet Hall. One of the groups actually ended up going down into here. And why did they go down into here? Oh, that's right. Granny Titchwillow is a diviner, and she was willing to help the characters find Ashton Sanguine if they got back for her sister's dead body, because the White Knights had killed her sister, burned her for being a witch, and then entombed her body down here in their catacombs. And so one of the groups had to come here and get her sister's body, take it back to Granny Titchwillow, so that they could then get information about where to find Ashton Sanguine. And so one of the groups had to come through here. And there you go. And I have more detailed maps here. There's a patrol encounter. There are, this is another one of the rooms that they went into as part of this. You can see here I have information about the catacombs themselves, just some bullet pointed lists. It describes it, how tall are the ceilings and stuff like that. Here's information. Here's some information about a patrol they could run into. There is more information here about the actual tomb where they would find Granny Titchwillow's sister's body. And again, just lots of information here. Lots and lots of information. And here's the thing, guys. So lots of stuff here, but not all of this was used. This was all just preparing things in advance so that as I ran this one-shot in kind of a sandboxy way, I would be able to pick and choose from NPCs and encounters to sort of guide the players to the end of this one-shot. And I don't know if I'm explaining this super well. I know it makes sense in my brain. Okay, so basically the point here is that either through cooperating with the White Knights, the heroes would get information about where to find Ashton Sanguine, or through helping Granny Titchwillow get the body of her dead sister back, they would find out how to find Ashton Sanguine. But one way or another, they would kind of have to cooperate with one of those two groups in some way, or come up with another idea that would get the job done as well. But eventually, they would get to the point where they actually had to apprehend Ashton Sanguine. And so what I got going on here is some information about that. Now, there is a ruined tower outside where they actually go in to find Ashton Sanguine. And so this is a basic map about this ruined tower. There's a ramp leading up to it, and then at the top of this ramp, I had a ruined keep, and then there were some orcs up there and a hill giant. And so they had to basically go up there and either sneak past them or fight them. And let me see, I think only one group actually made it all the way to here. I think that was my very first group, and they fought these guys. And then there was a cave complex that I had designed as well. And we'll see if we can rotate that properly. And so I have a basic map here of the cave complex where they would go into to actually find and fight Ashton Sanguine and apprehend him. And again, you can see here I have notes about that, just some combat notes, who's all in this cave complex. There's information about loot, all that good stuff. Basic information about the different rooms in there. And, all right, so one of the things here, if you remember at the very beginning of this, the adventure handout said that there was this competing adventuring group, the Hand of Light. And the Hand of Light was also trying to get Ashton Sanguine. And so here I have information about the Hand of Light. And the whole reason, so I was running this one-shot. So when I was planning this one-shot, I was thinking to myself, you know what, if they dilly-dally too much and they don't really get along to where they need to be to get Ashton Sanguine, then I need to have a backup plan. I need to have a way that I can bring resolution to this adventure. And I actually needed to use this backup plan in two of my groups. One of the groups actually got all the way to Ashton Sanguine. Two of the groups I had to use the Hand of Light. And the whole little trick here was the Hand of Light. So the two groups were doing whatever they were happening to be doing. And the Hand of Light got to Ashton Sanguine first. They apprehended him, and they were bringing Ashton Sanguine back. And then the players, their characters, ran into that group on the way back. And they had an interaction with the Hand of Light. They saw that the Hand of Light already had Ashton Sanguine. And then they had to make a basic decision. Are we going to try to fight the Hand of Light to get Ashton Sanguine? Or are we going to make some sort of deal with them? Or are we just going to call it a day? So one of my groups actually ended up fighting the Hand of Light. And as you can see here, I got bullet points, I got information about the battle and all this kind of stuff, stat blocks and whatnot. Those are in the books, but anyway. One of the groups fought the Hand of Light, and the other group, they threw a party celebrating that the Hand of Light had finally caught Ashton Sanguine and convinced them all to basically have a little party with them and got them drunk. No, they didn't get them drunk. What did they do? Oh, that's right. one of the players took this love potion number 11, I think, that they found in Granny Titchwillow's hut because they actually fought and defeated Granny Titchwillow and then took this love potion. He was putting this love potion into the drinks he was passing around to the Hand of Light. And what this love potion did was cause the Hand of Light, the people that drank it, to fall in love with the first person they saw. And so the Hand of Light was falling in love with everybody all over the place. Usually they were falling in love with the PCs, right? And then the PCs were like, well, they all fell in love with us. And then they just basically convinced them to go off and do whatever, and they were able to grab Ashton Sanguine and just walk off with him. This was one of those things where it was an absolutely unplanned turn of events, and they did something that was amazing. That group had so much fun with that ending, and they got Ashton Sanguine, and they did it not by fighting the Hand of Light, but by tricking them with a really, really good idea. And so that was an awesome ending, actually, for that group. So there we go. We got some of that stuff there, and then there's like the denouement, which is like I think it's a French word that means like wrapping up and stuff like that. Resolution. So just some basic stuff here. Now, of course, this is kind of a moot point because the real climax and everything for the one shot was actually getting Ashton Sanguine, and I know that all of my groups ended up apprehending Ashton Sanguine one way or another. And again, that was just because I had all of these encounters and stuff prepared, and I was just using them as I saw fit, keeping an eye on the clock, and then kind of guiding them to the point where they could actually have a chance at completing the adventure. And all my groups did complete the adventure, and all of them within the 4-hour time block. So I know this works very, very well. It just takes, maybe some practice, some planning, some thought, and all that good stuff. So there you go. Remember, I make videos every week designed to help Dungeon Masters run awesome games, so if you want to level up your game, consider subscribing. If you found this video useful and you like it, that's what that thumbs up button is for. Also consider sharing it with someone that you think might find this useful. As always, if you got questions about the game, or especially questions about DMing, then please hit me up down in the comments. I'm always happy to help. And until next time, let's play D&D.